Some things make impressions on you so deep that the shape they leave never really goes away. That's partly what this show is about. Sharing those experiences. Either to come together in communal enjoyment or to spread, extend the love and positivity you have for a thing out to others. And the effect of those influences is often so profound in the influence that it exerts over your taste and choices and development as a reader, a viewer, a creator, a listener, a player. You know? The Terminator is more than just a sci-fi horror romp. It's a bolt of lightning that distills high concept ideas into bite-sized chunks of movie magic and presents it all to you in a celluloid beverage that slips down smooth and easy. It kicks off James Cameron's incredible streak, the beginning of an unbelievable streak of quality filmmaking with a real masterpiece. Its influence on visual cinema, on narrative and theme in genre film, on how unbelievably cool leather jackets are, is impossible to overstate. So, let's talk about it. First of all, the plot, in case you're one of maybe 7 people who's never seen the Terminator, or at least been exposed to it through cultural osmosis. In the future, humanity will be all but annihilated when the defense computer system Skynet becomes self-aware and launches a preemptive strike against the human race. A man named John Connor rallies the survivors into a human resistance and takes the fight to the machines. In an effort to turn the tide of war before it even begins, Skynet sends a Terminator infiltration unit, a machine assassin cloaked in flesh, back to the early 1980s to murder the mother of John Connor before he's even conceived. But the resistance is hot on Skynet's heels and sends back a guardian for Sarah Connor, a young woman who will one day, unbeknownst to her, mother the saviour of humanity. So, who will reach her first? Will Sarah be able to escape the Terminator?
Come with me if you want to live.
I think it's fair to say that when people think about the Terminator, they think about Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that's totally understandable. Not only is the Terminator one of a rash of early 80s genre pieces that helped to make Arnie a household name and a box office draw, but it's also an iconic performance. And I get it. People like to dunk on Arnie for being a bad actor, but he isn't here. And yeah, you might say that's because he's not got a lot to do, but that's an oversimplification of what's actually going on here. One may think that playing an emotionless machine is easy, but try doing anything without some underlying emotion. Not the underacting that is common in poor performances, the dull surprise that's become a hallmark of cheap films full of bad actors.
Shut up, but the next one goes in you!
I mean nothing. A truly soulless performance. There's an economy of movement, of expression, a complete lack of bias here that makes Arnold's performance consistent with the mute machine the Terminator becomes after its flesh is burned away at the climax of the film. To write that off as bad acting is dismissive and reductive. And whatever you think of Schwarzenegger's real-life persona and politics, I'm not a huge fan personally. To paint him as a bad performer is patently a falsehood. You know, for contrast, there are, of course, a pair of very human performances at the forefront of the Terminator, courtesy of Linda Hamilton and Michael Biehn. You know, Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese's relationship is very much the heart of the film, and we see Sarah's journey from put-upon waitress to hard-boiled survivalist under Reese's protection. The film and its sequel give Linda Hamilton her signature role, and she is excellent in it. The way her character is put through the ringer here and comes out stronger is really compelling. A true transformation. And as someone who's worked their fair share of customer service, it's frustrating to see her early on as a waitress constantly brought down by some of the worst restaurant customers in the history of the world.
Nice going, kid. How to give you the tip?
Seriously, these diners are just monsters. People like this are why I won't wait tables anymore for fear of committing assault. As a viewer, you kind of have to wonder how such a timid person could possibly give rise to the leader of a resistance. And so it's incredibly satisfying as we see the metaphorical steel within her uncovered when she faces down the literal steel of the Terminator as the film reaches a crescendo. On top of this, her compassion is demonstrated in her concern and later affection for Reese after her initial fear of him, demonstrates her humanity and potential for leadership that she'll later pass on to her son. It's a well-rounded character, brilliantly played. Now, anyone who knows me knows that I'm a big fan of Michael Biehn, and his turn as Kyle Reese here should go a long way to explaining why. From his very first appearance on screen, Reese is presented as an underdog. We see from his dreams that he's haunted by his experiences in the future war, determined to protect Sarah at all costs. And we learn that he took this mission fully aware that it was suicide. We understand that his entire existence has been devoted to Sarah, to this moment, to coming back to the past to fulfill his purpose. The brief happiness he finds with Sarah is brutally cut short, and it's the final act of a violent and harsh life, but he faces it with determination and courage. Reese is a man with all the emotion the Terminator lacks, and he channels it towards his goal in an affecting performance that allows Biehn to be both stoic and vulnerable. An open wound of a man, scabbed over just enough to function, but not so much that he won't bleed under pressure. He's an all too human foil to Arnold's emotionless machine. Reese's Arrival in 1984 is actually a really great example of how the various aspects of production come together to make this more than the sum of its well-machined and finely tuned parts. As he's cornered by police, Reese escapes into a department store via the rear entrance, and what follows is a comprehensive lesson in character and storytelling. Brad Fiddel's score becomes a nightmarish scatter of disarrayed synths as Reese frantically scrambles from hiding place to hiding place, evading the police's methodical search while scavenging clothing. The shadows of the closed-up department store, strafed by the police flashlights, provide an arresting visual as Reese slinks through the store, before eventually escaping and borrowing a shotgun from one of the unattended police cars. Divorced in context from the rest of the film, it shows us, rather than tells us, about Reese's capacity for stealth, improvisation, and survival. Oh, and that he wears Nike trainers. In context with the rest of the film, it provides a stark contrast to the arrival of the Terminator. Arnie is framed to look imposing and to emphasise his impressive physical bulk. Biehn is framed to highlight Reese's scarring on his muscular yet lean frame. The Terminator's movements are deliberate and considered. Reese's are a mad scramble, frantic as if on the edge of panic. And the score reflects this as well. Reese's scattered synth motifs starkly distinct from the ordered, percussive Terminator theme. The Terminator immediately takes on three armed thugs while naked, overpowering them with his bare hands and minimal effort. Reese has to steal pants off an incapacitated homeless man, ambush a lone police officer to steal a weapon, and then avoid confrontation altogether. All of these are script and performance choices which establish character with minimal dialogue, providing the audience with a detailed sense of these characters on an almost subconscious level, thanks to the magic of film. Or, effective filmmaking techniques and good direction, which this film is just chock full of. Another great example is the way geography and relative positions of the characters are all established and used during the Tech Noir nightclub scene, as Sarah, Reese, and the Terminator finally all cross paths. The first near miss of the Terminator passing by Sarah as she ducks down to pick something up is a great tension builder, and the slowdown of time as the red dot laser sight fills Sarah's POV before Reese comes to her rescue and absolute chaos ensues is a fantastic release of that slow build. Pretty cool song played in that club too, but good luck finding it unless you've got the original soundtrack album. On top of all these wonderful performance and production choices is, of course, Stan Winston's Terminator effects. There's no rush to reveal the robotic horror that sits just beneath the skin of Arnold's stone-faced villain. It's slowly brought out through the amount of punishment that the Terminator takes. You get a piece-by-piece reveal that crescendos with the now iconic design, realised through a combination of Stan Winston puppetry and stop-motion work by effects studio Fantasy 2, who also work on the tantalising glimpses of the future war. The film is 35 years old now, and although these effects have undeniably aged, there's still something satisfying about the tactile nature of actual on-set puppetry and prosthetics. Yeah, there's a clunkiness to the eye surgery scene, but there's also a charm to the reality of the Arnold head puppet. It looks almost silly by today's standards, but it's a real thing in front of the camera, and that, for me, is what makes it so enduring. See, here's the thing about special effects. I know they're not real. I'm not being fooled. A lot of the time, I'm even fairly sure how they do most things. It comes with the territory of being interested in film production. So I don't need effects to convince me that they're real. I'm okay with things looking fake. I just need them to look good. Real, fake, bad, good. They're four separate concepts, not synonyms. The Terminator is, at this point, an old movie. 35 years for an effects-heavy genre piece is practically ancient. So, some of it's a little creaky. But as a whole, its flaws disappear. It's a tense ride that flies by. It has arresting visuals and strong performances and a great central concept with a tight script. It's the Terminator. It's a classic. What more can I say? See it if you haven't, and see it again if you have. Thanks for watching this episode of Big Damn Love, and thanks to our patrons for making this show possible. If you'd like to help support us, you can head over to patreon.com/BigDamnCast and do so for as little as $1 a month, if, of course, you're in a position to. Don't forget to catch the Big Damn Cast every Thursday wherever podcasts are found. You can watch us stream, twitch.tv/BigDamnStream at least 3 times a week, and follow us at Big Damn Cast on Twitter to keep abreast of all the latest developments. Once again, thanks for watching, and in 2 weeks' time, I'll be back. Sorry, I kind of had to do that.
This is fucking great.